Hello and welcome back to Nat Scraps. I hope you are having a wonderful, wonderful day. Today we are working on the second card using the September stamp of the month. And I've already created one card, hence it being the second video. And if you haven't seen that, pop back and have a little look at it. But what I'm doing is just playing with this stamp set and creating a few cards. So today especially, this is an exploration. It's finding what I can and can't do with this stamp and trying to use it in different ways to get something a little bit different going on. So this is not a start with this, stamp this, do this, and you will end up with this. Hopefully if you stick around and watch this video, you'll get ideas that might spark some inspiration in you, and you might go off and create something totally different or something similar but with a different feature. And I would love to see that. If you do that, if you find some inspiration here, I would love to hear about it. I'd love to know about it, and I'd love to see what you do. You can either email me or hop over to my Facebook group and leave a message there. Or you can leave a message on YouTube and I will reply to you. So the very first thing that I did was sort of start off with the stamping. These are fairly detailed stamps, so I am using my Misty and I'm tending to find I'm stamping several times. The first one that I did there, I started off stamping with the an archival ink, which is very, very light grey. So this allows me to do a couple of things. It allows me to be able to restamp over it in darker colours in certain areas and be able to fill in certain areas with colour. I then go and try to do some embossing, and I quickly realized that being so fine and my embossing powder is quite a thicker powder, that wasn't going to work. So I then move on to my next idea, which is going to be creating a few masks. I do apologize, guys, for my really croaky voice. I do currently have COVID. I've had it for the last couple of days, so I am just a little croaky, but well on the way to recovery. So here I am creating a couple of masks, and I sort of cut the center out there, and I'm thinking I want the center of that mask, but I also then realize I want some outside of that mask, but I also want a frame mask. So you'll see in a moment I go a bit mask crazy, and there is lots of different versions of this, including me going to stamp it and finding that I didn't have pieces that are big enough, and going and stamping them and them not being stamped in actually on the mask, and all sorts of stuff. So we explored a few different things here. So this is probably the third or fourth one. You can see as this card goes on, the litter around my bench, and I've actually zoomed into my mat quite a lot today, but I had lots of bits floating around everywhere, which is my crafting style. My crafting style pretty much is crazy messy and all out of control. Here I'm placing down that center mask, and then I'm doing the outside mask. Now I have started off stamping this in that very light gray, and then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to stamp the frame in the dark black ink. So this should have a subtle kind of feeling for the background and then the sharpness of the frame. Now my masks, this is a really intricate sort of die. The frame is not clear cut as to where it is. You can see me going into the back, into this center mask and doing a little bit of extra trimming because I'd found some pieces that weren't quite where they should be. And I did have this spare one stamped, so I do go back in and I do recut another one. So I did, as I said, several of these, and the pieces kind of mounted up. Now, if you were doing it at home, you may have, if you were trying to create the same card as what I did, you would have a much better idea of where you're wanting to cut and what you're wanting to cut, hopefully, after seeing this. But yeah, it did take a few attempts to get that right, and to find out where the frame ended and where sort of like the flower petals and bits and pieces continued to go on. On this one, you can see that I've put down the actual frame mask, not the inside or the outside. And then I'm going to bring in a little bit of pink and color around. And so I'm trying to play with the idea of making the frame sort of bold, a little bit of softer color in the background, and then seeing if that pops or what would happen there. I did realize that after I blended with the inks, I need to leave it to dry for quite a while before I then went and tried to put a mask on top because it would not stamp. That is just something you find as you keep going on. And that one, there was something that had gone completely wrong in the whole look of that one. I think it got smudged, or I had moved the cardstock and I double stamped it kind of thing, and I didn't get it all right. So I'm going to go back in and redo it. But as I'm doing this, the reason I didn't just cut these out and show you what the end product, like step by step, is that it's okay for these things to happen. It's okay. As I'm doing this, I'm learning about the stamp. I'm learning about the bits and pieces that are in the stamp. I'm learning about what's working, what's not working. And that's okay when you're playing. When you've got a new set and you want to just create, it is okay to have those failures and things go wrong. It is perfectly all right. So I've gone in for a second one, and this time you can see that there's just a couple of little areas that aren't quite hit when I have gone in and done that stamping. And I've just brought in a black texture and I've done a couple of little dots and filled those in where I needed to. And I did that quite a lot towards the end. Now I'm looking at trying to pick up the shapes that are in this one with a green pen. So bringing that foliage out and maybe making that foliage a little bit more of a feature on this one. And I just took the shape from underneath and followed that to color in. Basically, there was nothing fancy. Now, I didn't really like the color. I didn't like the greeny color that I went. It was probably too yellow green. I maybe should have gone a darker one, but I kind of discarded that and threw it off to the side along with a few of the other discards that we've already had. And I come back in and I am going to do pretty much exactly the same thing. But this again is where I'm saying you can make mistakes. You can just half do one. You don't have to make a full card out of each. And I'm exploring. I'm figuring out what I like and I don't like. I did like the idea of bringing out that foliage a little bit more. And I believe it's on this one. I am going to have another attempt and just wait to see if that is right. Again, I'm just going in and filling a couple of those little details that got missed with the masks. And I must be having a little think about this. I do not know. Generally, I cut those little pauses out. And yeah, here I'm coming in. So this time I'm coming in with the grey tri-blends instead of that green. And I'm pulling in details again from that foliage. Now, this one is still sitting on my bench, and I will eventually make a card out of this one. I was pretty, had blinkers on previous to this, and when I'd done this one, I thought, no, it doesn't look right. But now looking back, I actually really like the end result of this one. And I think it would look beautiful with like a butterfly on the corner or something like that. So I'm in and ahhing, and I am discussing this. I have got a group of girls in my studio working away on their own projects while I'm doing this. And I think at one stage I'm kind of like saying to them, I really don't know where I'm going. I think I'm just all over the place. I think somebody may have even had a finger just sneak in there, and they had come over to say, no, keep going, you're on the right track, or or Nat, you're an absolute crazy woman. It would have been one of the two, because quite often that's two options I get. And here I continue to do that colouring, so I'm going in a little bit darker. So before it was a little bit too soft and I wasn't really picking up those details. It just looked like they were a little bit darker than the stamped, but now I'm pulling them out and trying to make them nearly as dark as what that frame is, so that what's in the background is really the soft writing. there's this tiny little rose that is on this stamp set, and where those wish flowers were, I stamped those little roses, and I really do like how that came up. And yes, I will go back and I will actually create that one into a card. But at this particular time when I was creating this, I was like, no, there's still something in my mind that's got to come out. And I put that one to a side, and I did make a phone call and started on a new bit. So I don't know about you guys, but I do tend to make lots of phone calls that I have to make while I'm crafting, and I don't always think about the fact that the phone would be on camera with all the details of whoever I'm phoning on camera. And yeah, it's a bit of a bad habit. I must get used to putting it right away to the side so I don't have that camera there. Now I've decided that I want to make this onto a DL card, and that is nice and long. So you see I've turned around the shape of the stamp to the other direction, but I'm doing exactly the same steps. I'm masking the outside and the middle, and then stamping the frame dark. And then I will also then come back in and put the frame mask on in a moment and blend a little bit of color. So I'm using those bits and pieces that I've kind of formulated over the play that I have had. Now, if you've lasted this long, this is the final one. This is what the card actually ends up being. So yep, congratulations, you have made it through a nat play day. Nearly, you're getting there. So now I'm going to bring in this cute film strip, and how gorgeous is this stamp, guys? I can see this on layouts, and I can see this on cards and all sorts of stuff. So I really love this one. Now I'm going to come in with the Stays On ink here because and it needed a re-ink. It was a little bit dry. It will dry a lot better on the vellum than if I had stamped with one of the other blank inks, and I didn't want it to be all smudgy and mushy, so I go there. Now I didn't need to stamp that on the paper. I just did that so that it was using up the leftover ink that was on the stamp. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for just a second. Now I'm going to lay this, so in a second you'll see me take my craft knife, and I am going to cut just a little bit of slit on either side of that frame, and that way I can poke the film strip in on either side and have that glued at the side there, and it will be look like that it's running behind that frame without actually having to cut the frame out and repaste it on. Now there was a little bit of luck in the next thing that I did, because I went to put on a little bit of glue here, as we do, pop in tiny little dobs just behind the little black sections of the strip, and I've put it there, and I've gone and moved it just a little as I've gone to wait for the glue to set, and it's buckled a little bit, which vellum will do when it gets glue on it. Vellum tends to want to buckle, but I'm like, if you want to buckle, then I'm going to get you to buckle, and we're going to have a film strip that is 3D in nature and it's not sitting flat on the card. And I really like the fact that that just naturally occurred, and we went with it. We just went, well, if that's what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen. Very close to finishing this one off, and as I'd said, like, I've put together lots of little things that I liked from the other cards, and now I am just going to decorate what I have decided I like just that little bit more. There's lots of little border strips and things like that, so I added a couple of those on, and then this cute little postage stamp postmark, and I'm going to pop that up in the top left hand corner. So you do notice that sorry, lost my train of thought again. I am sorry, guys. I'm very losing my train of thought lots here. So stamping that up in the corner, and then we are close to finish. I am going to go around the outside edge of this with a little bit of the mulberry, I believe that color is, and just put a fine detail of that around. And then the last detail is a sentiment, and I'm going to use the same sentiment as I used on the last card, and I'm thinking I actually used this one on all of the cards that I make, which is a little bit silly. Talking about the other cards that I make, there is a third card. There will be, that one is going to be a really, really quick one. It's not going to be anywhere near as long as this one. And you will get to see that if you like, subscribe, and don't miss the next video. Hint, hint. Subscribing to the channel does not cost you anything, but you get to get a notification when I release a video, and it also helps me to grow so that I can keep producing videos. So yeah, if you do even like this slightly, please think about doing that and supporting the channel. In a moment, you'll see me tip that card front, and you'll be able to see the bubbles in that film strip a little bit better and be able to see those smaller details. I do slow it down here somewhere, I believe, so you can see those things. I'm going to get a card front and just a simple couple of strips of tape and pop that on. Once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. I apologize for this crackly voice and all the crazy shenanigans that are going on with me today. I hope you've enjoyed. There is a quick look here with the slowdown, and you'll see if you didn't get to see the first video, you'll see a card there that I made in video 1. I hope you guys have a awesome day, and that you can get your fingers inky and get your craft on. Until the next video, guys, bye.